From the Joy News Center. This is News at 8.
Primetime News Bulletin here on Joy News on Multi TV. Coming up, the Ghana National Fire Service is still struggling to bring under control a major fire that engulfed the country's primary medical supplies warehouse in Tema several hours after it started. Ministry of Health officials have described the fire as disastrous with serious implications for healthcare delivery. The Electoral Commission announces much anticipated reforms to Ghana's electoral process may just happen before the 2016 elections as a committee is formed to consider the various proposals. Transport Ministry threatens sanctions for transport operators refusing to comply with 5% fare reduction. And female accuser of Ghanaian entertainment icon Kwesi Che Dakwa in rape scandal indicates her unwillingness to continue with the case. We also have sports, business and international news all coming up. This bulletin is also available across Europe on AVN television in London. Do stay tuned.
News at 8 with Israel Lai.
Negotiations have begun on a new minimum wage for 2015. The tripartite committee comprising representatives from Labour and government will settle on a new wage which will inform the base pay used to determine the salaries of workers, especially in the public sector. Employment Minister Haruna Idrisu disclosed this at a media briefing in Accra on Tuesday.
The Public Services Joint Standing Negotiating Committee, which comprises governments represented by the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Employment and Labour Relations on one hand, and Organised Labour on the other, are involved in the negotiations. Employment Minister Haruna Idrisu says his outfit will ensure the process is fast-tracked to make way for swift negotiations and implementation of the 2015 minimum wage.
Government, in partnership with its tripartite partners, Labour, employers, have commenced in earnest negotiations for the determination of the base pay for 2015 and the daily minimum wage for 2015. It is the expectation of government that we will conclude negotiations much more earlier than we have done in previous years and before, in order that we'll be able to get the Controller and Accountant General to facilitate payment of the determined basic base pay and daily minimum wage. So negotiations commenced this afternoon at the Public Services Joint Standing Negotiating Committee chaired by the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, and ably represented was the Organised Labour, the Secretary General of the TUC, and the leadership of the Public Services worker unions, and other observers were in the participation. My understanding and firm belief is that it's important for both partners, government and Labour, to appreciate the concerns, legitimate concerns of organized Labour and their legitimate needs and demands, against the constraints of the budget and the capacity of the budget to contain whatever they may be demanding. That's why, arguably, globally, ability to pay is always a function of this negotiation process, recognizing the contribution of labor through enhanced productivity, significant contribution to gross domestic product, and mindful of inflationary trends in the country. So I thank you for listening. It's just to keep you informed that some work have commenced, and it's the determination of government to work with labor to contain the wage bill. And our determination is rooted in the fact that an improved and better economy fortunes will be better shared by both government and labor.
The current minimum wage stands at 6 Ghana cedis at a time when many are complaining about the spiraling cost of living. Many workers will therefore hope that their representatives at the negotiations will drive a hard bargain to secure a wage rise that will cushion them.
Now, in other news, the Electoral Commission of Ghana has announced plans to reform the country's electoral process in time for the 2016 election. According to EC Chairman Dr. Kweju Afare-Gyang, a 7-member committee to look at the various proposals will soon be served with their terms of reference. The Supreme Court, in the delivery of its election petition verdict, indicated the need for reforms to address some of the challenges and irregularities identified with the process in the last election, a position strongly advocated by the country's opposition parties. Etonam Say has more.
We have a number of proposals, a large number of proposals. They will sift through the proposals and tell us which ones maybe can be done immediately, which ones require, a legal backing, and therefore we have to go to the legislature and so on. So that would be the job of the committee. We have agreed with the IPAC that we set up a committee made up of representatives of political parties and the commission to look at all the proposals that we have received.
In furtherance to this, the Electoral Commission has launched the second edition of Ghana's electoral laws. The 329-page document is an amendment of the country's existing laws expected to play a key role during the 2016 elections. Chairman of the Electoral Commission, Dr. Kweju Afare-Gyang, has charged the various political parties to carefully study the document.
This is an improvement upon the earlier one. Yes, we are having to react to too many court cases. Some of them may not have a reason if people had read the laws very carefully.
MPP Member of Parliament for Ikuapem South, Obi Amwa, is, however, not enthused about the document.
Some of these laws, they exist already, except that the EC has decided to put them together. We expect that every EC officer will be abreast with the laws. Once they know the laws, it's easier to implement them. There's no point on registration day or election day to find party reps arguing with EC about some of the laws. If they know their law, it's easier for all of us, because some of the parties, like my party MPP, we take the trouble to even supply some of these regulations to our polling station agents.
General Secretary of the ruling National Democratic Congress, Johnson Isiedu Nketia, however, disagrees.
No, this is not about training of EC legal personnel. They've been operating with the laws already. The problem comes where you have temporary staff of the EC who are not permanent staff anyway. And then you have members of society, members of political parties, party agents and so on, who would be operating with the laws in a certain environment. So they should be conversant about the procedures and processes that operate on the field. So, because if there are no controversies on the field, I don't think the Electoral Commission, staff at head office would have any role to play at all.
The Electoral Commission also launched a document it calls Association of African Election Authority Courses, which is to equip EC officials.
The 5% reduction in transport fares announced by the Ghana Road Transport Coordinating Council is yet to take effect at some lorry stations in Accra. Some drivers at the Tema Station bus terminal explain they are waiting for their local executives to officially communicate the new fares to be charged.
The Ghana Road Transport Coordinating Council announced a 5% reduction in transport fares following the reduction of fuel prices by 10%. The directive was to take effect on Friday, January 9, but as of Tuesday, January 13, only a few of the drivers had complied.
Apart from fuel now, most of my reduce, I don't cry who of fuel station here. And the two spare parts and so, yeah, swear. Near a ton of crown pomasato, so it's a second hand tie cry back 300 million, 300,000, which is 3 million. And the price in the say a better so dear, and now on a spare pass any demand in us. Say, so I say, I bear to see am I. Why no cranny, so say 5% in a day, no cranny. Yet you but ye GPIT the almost say via my side, the train, surprise in the banners also in so.
Well, I don't believe that they have to talk about the 5% because 5% that one could not help. You have to wait. Then the government, if you reduce the petrol again, then you raise it. Sometimes they will come more than 10%, they will come out 20 or 25%. Then you go ahead, reduce the price. 20%, 5% cannot do anything for anybody. So I believe that the way you are talking about, you should reduce price, you should do the rail fares, I don't believe it's proper.
The passengers who were eagerly anticipating the fare reduction have called for government intervention.
What they are saying is that the price, their fares was increased some 2%, 1%, so they cannot reduce their fares. In the sense that if you reduce 5% from the petrol price, you're telling them to reduce theirs, it will not work. So that's the reason why they haven't reduced their prices yet. What I expect is that they should try to do something about the fares. If they cannot, then the government is also supposed to do something about the fares as well.
Meanwhile, union leaders at the Tema station says they cannot be faulted for the delay in effecting the new fares, stressing they were only served the letters on Friday evening and will need a bit more time.
We send our letters out to the drivers. We talked to the drivers yesterday because we received the letters on Friday around 4:30 when we are about to close. So Saturday no work, Sunday no work too. It's yesterday when we distribute the letters to the drivers. So I'm expecting that today they have to start it. So, but though, so far the government says we should do it, we will do it for him. And I'm going to make sure that from today after weekend, things will change on this park too. No, I'll call all the executives. We have about 40 branches on this park. I'll call all of the executives and talk to them. This is what is going to happen, or this happened. This is what's happened. So I beg them they should go and talk to their members.
He added, drivers who fail to carry out the directive by next week will be sanctioned.
Well, Transport Minister Jifa Ativo has warned drivers who refuse to reduce their fares as directed by the transport unions will be prevented from boarding passengers at the various bus terminals. She announced this as some of the sanctions to be instituted to ensure that drivers comply with the new fares. She said those who fail to comply will be dealt with. Now, moving on. Minister Jifa Ativo has announced plans to establish an independent investigative committee to probe the exact cause of the crash landing involving an Ethiopian airline cargo plane at the Kotka International Airport last Saturday. The minister, on a tour of the accident site, expressed hope ongoing modernization projects at the various airports will help forestall such accidents. The committee is expected to be inaugurated on Thursday, January 15.
Sport Minister Jifar Tivo, together with her deputy Joyce Balmutgari, visited the site where the Ethiopian airline cargo aircraft crash-landed at the Kotoka International Airport last Saturday to assess the current situation. The cause of the crash remains unknown, and the minister says a committee will look into the matter.
As a government, there's a need for us to set up an investigation committee, an independent one, so that we'll know exactly what caused the incident.
Jifar Tivo explains government is vigorously working on transforming the country's airports.
So when you go to the airports, developments are going on. You go to the seaports, we are transforming the ports, Tema Harbour, Takrady Harbour. You go to the institutions like Metro Mass, Intercity STC, DVLA, I think you must have heard that this year's registration process was quite smooth. It's because of the measures we've put in place so that the people of Ghana will enjoy a decent environment and decent service.
Meanwhile, 2 of the 3 crew members on board the cargo aircraft with flight number ETAQV, when it crash-landed, have been discharged from the 37 military hospital. The last member, though, is responding to treatment.
Police in the Ashanti region have arrested 6 people at Ujusu Jabbing for trafficking 267 parcels of substance suspected to be cannabis. 4 of the suspects are said to be the main distributors of the substance in some communities in Kumasi. A report by Mahmoud Mohamed Nurdin.
The arrest follows police intelligence geared towards identifying and arresting drug peddlers in the area in response to persistent public complaints about increasing criminal activities. The Drug Law Enforcement Unit of the Police Criminal Investigation Department embarked on an operation at 2 separate drug bases, which led to the arrest. 28-year-old Ajimana Mankwa and 35-year-old James Akpene are described as the main drug peddlers in the town. 4 others, Imano Kojo Baba, Kwabnansia, Abubakar Zakari and Collins Sasamwa, were apprehended in an isolated house at Jabbing, a suburb of Ahunjo. ASP Charles Apia is the head of the Drug Law Enforcement Unit.
Struck at 2 main drug bases at Jabbing, and we succeeded in arresting the 2 persons. So we retrieved exhibits from them. Yes. So one of the suspects that we arrested from Jabbing, he is Ajimaya Mankwa. He volunteered to assist us to trace the main distributor in the whole area.
They were caught offloading from a vehicle 267 compressed slabs of suspected cannabis believed to have been transported from Isoko in the Bonoafo region. One of the suspects, Emmanuel Baba from Yabraso near Winchi, also in the Bonoafo region, is said to be the kingpin behind the drug business.
We're taking a break now, but we have more stories coming up, including the fire at the Central Medical Stores in Tema. To stay tuned. Officers of the Ghana National Fire Service have been struggling for the last several hours to bring under control a fire at the Central Medical Stores at Tema. The fire at the warehouse, Ghana's foremost and largest medical supplies depot, started well before midday. Deputy Public Relations Officer of the Ghana National Fire Service, Prince Billy Anaglate, explains the severe harmattan is making their work extremely difficult.
Well, actually, personally, I am not surprised seeing the fire to reignite because of the type of combustible materials and substances that we are talking of chemicals. And then there are a lot of plastics that has also melted and has covered the actual chemicals that are burning. I stated it earlier on that some of the chemicals are not miscible with water. If they are not miscible with water, reducing its concentration below the ignition temperature becomes a problem. And where you also have plastics that has melted to form a coated layer on the burning material, you using water, throwing water, the plastic layer, coated layer, serves as a shield where the water is, you don't have that impact that the water should have on the burning substance and to break the chain of chemical reaction during the combustion. And it becomes difficult really for a fire of this nature should just go off totally, because we are talking of a temperature that could sustain the fire to a certain level. So if you have the fire gone down, like we all saw a few hours ago, that does not mean that the fire was totally off. Technically, we know that it could reignite. That is why we are here, trying to ensure that every pocket of it is totally extinguished. We should also not forget that looking at the type of wind, the velocity of the wind that is even here with us, it is also aiding and fanning the fire. That is why with the slightest heat and with that sort of level of
so the harmattan and the wind is actually playing a role in the fire we are having now. Okay, let me come to this. To the layman, the ordinary person watching across Ghana, across Africa, the fire was almost out at that particular side, that particular stretch, that other entrance over there. One would ask, why didn't we totally put that off? We seem to have left that side and we're focusing on this other entry point. What is there a tactical move? Was that tactical in any way?
Yes, if you look at the building that we have here, this building that is also having other goods, chemicals, stored in it, has not been affected. But if you look at the other side that you are talking of, yes, the fire has actually destroyed that portion of it. So what was burning was just materials that have already been destroyed. They were only being burnt.
All right, we're going on to the phone lines now to speak to Dr. Samuel Boateng. He's the director of the Central Medical Stores, where the fire is raging in Tema. Good evening to you, Dr. Boateng.
Good evening to your listeners.
All right, thank you very much for joining us. Now, I've heard the Director General of the Ghana Health Service describe this fire as disastrous. Can you explain to us how exactly disastrous this is?
Yeah, it's quite devastating because of probably the weather and other factors. We did all what we could to put the fire out, but we couldn't do that. It really threw everything and we lost almost everything at the store.
What extent of loss are we looking at here?
Yeah, in terms of putting value to it, it's difficult for me to make any statement now.
I can understand, but what does it mean to have this fire, destroy all these medical supplies? Does it mean that it being the Central Medical Stores, we're not going to have any supplies at all going into the near future?
No, in the short term, we have depots in all the 10 regions where we have put some of the commodities there. And at least we have not less than 3 months supplies to keep us going. We also have some supplies that are in the pipeline coming from overseas and abroad. So we hope that that should be able to keep us going for the short term. But we are planning a response to this disaster, and hopefully that if our response is quite okay, we should be able to replenish our stock for the medium to long term.
How soon, or first of all, I want to revisit the issue about the extent of loss. Are we looking at an 80% loss or probably a 90% loss in terms of our supply?
Above 90% loss.
Now that's serious.
Right.
That's serious. Okay, so we're also told about arson being suspected. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Well, I'm not willing to talk about arson now because I'm living in Accra, and this thing happened in Tema. I was called from Accra, and I got to Tema around 10:30 to 11, when the fire was almost raising everything. So how it started and how other issues came into that, I cannot tell. But for now, what I was told was that the management there was having a meeting. We were about to have a meeting, and then one of the staff was attending to some fire that was coming up one of the corners of the warehouse. And then quickly they mobilized the fire service, and they came down, tried to do what they could, but unfortunately, because of the weather situation, I was there around 10:30 to 11, and at that time it was almost half, 50% burned. But it appeared that the intensity of the fire was so huge that the fire service could not do much as expected.
Now, Dr. Boateng, how does this affect our preparedness to contain an Ebola outbreak? Because we're told that you also stock the Ebola medication also there.
We have distributed Ebola consumables to all the regions and some hospitals. So what we're holding was just in case there's a suspected case, then we can deploy them. But hopefully tomorrow we'll be having a meeting to discuss all the issues, not necessarily Ebola, but every issue around public health. And then we'll design a response. But we have equipment, good equipment in all the regions and some hospitals as well.
Now, do we have, are these items or supplies insured in any way?
No, we insure them right they are in transit, but as soon as they get to our warehouse, then the insurance expires. We have tried in the past to try and get some insurance company to insure the goods, but they haven't taken advantage of the opportunity. Most probably the risk parties involved.
In effect, it means that whatever has been lost completely.
I think so, unfortunately, yeah.
Right, thank you very much, Dr. Samuel Boateng. He is the director of the Central Medical Supplies Depot in Tema, which is under fire, and the fire service officials are struggling to try to bring the blaze under control. Now, the absence of footbridges and traffic lights on the completed portion of the Awoshi-Pokwasi Highway is posing danger to pedestrians. Several accidents have been recorded on the stretch as high-speeding vehicles disregard the assigned speed limits on the road.
The completed portion from Awoshi Junction to Anya has road markings, road signs, pedestrian crossing, speed ramps and street lights. This portion of the multiple carriageway in Awoshi has 10 lanes, 5 on either side. Even though there are pedestrian crossings, there are no traffic lights. Without footbridges or traffic lights, crossing this multiple lane carriageway is hectic as motorists disregard the 60 km/h speed limits. Just along the road is the Odogono Senior High School. Students have to make their way across this road at least twice daily.
I'm careful whenever I'm crossing the road. I look left and right and see whether there is a car coming, maybe from my left and my right before I cross the road. Yeah, it's dangerous. Moreover, sometimes if you are crossing car, we suffer a lot. Because we have to wait for maybe the cars to stop before we cross.
It seems speed ramps and pedestrian crossings are not enough to compel motorists to slow down as they approach the school. While some motorists speed off, a few considerate ones stop to allow pedestrians to cross. To avert accidents and deaths, the Anya branch of the Ghana Private Road Transport Union is assisting pedestrians to cross safely.
Since I started by I'm starting to know say there. Agent be happy I say. Be I say be a car bo be I say be say be happy kwada. Because me just saying to them be am just be ya. Na drive for be omo private car driver sin bo no ma. Stop plan the bofu. Say I not stop me. Let me say I say is crossing. Just say any power pansa say low speed make akra number form. Na drive for say educate on private drivers no.
Adding to the danger is the practice of commercial drivers taking on passengers in the inner lanes of the carriageway. Construction of the road, however, continues from Anya to Pokwasi, where the speed limit is 20 km/h. This is, however, largely ignored. The 15-kilometer stretch from Awoshi Junction to Pokwasi runs through several communities on either side. Traffic lights and footbridges would therefore be required if the lives of pedestrians are to be protected.
The Ghana Central Municipality will commence the construction of its share of the 50 Community Day Senior High Schools promised by government this Friday. Municipal Chief Executive for the area, Aristo Ayi, blames the delay on disputes over the proposed site for the project. Etanam Say has been finding out more.
President John Dramani Mahama in March 2014 cut sword for the commencement of the proposed 50 community senior high schools, which is part of the first batch of 200 senior high schools to be built across the country. One of such communities to benefit from the first batch is the Gas Central municipality. A visit to the assembly to ascertain whether the project is taking off revealed that access to land for the project is becoming a challenge. Gas Central Municipal Chief Executive Aristo Ai tells Joy News why.
In fact, there are no pieces of land to even acquire. The ones you have will be smaller portions. We don't have vast piece of land, and even the ones that are available to acquire are all in disputes. What we did was that we first identify a site at Israel, because we only have one SHS, which is Odogono. But unfortunately, the land was in dispute. So we have now allocated a new site at Kukumpi. The minister came here herself. We took her to Israel. We did a search. The search was in somebody's name. The Lands Commission has leased the land already. And also the traditional leaders are fighting the person. We could have gone to the person and acquired the land, but we realized that the case is in court on that, and it will drag the project. So we decided to look for another piece of land, which we have successfully gotten. So hopefully it will take off this week.
He is, however, confident of a brighter 2015 for the municipality despite daunting challenges.
We have 2 school building projects which are near completion, and will be handed over by the end of this month. We have 2 toilet projects which are also completed and will be handed over by the end of this month. We are building a semi-clinic at Ablik Molebu. It started in November, and hopefully in the middle of the year we should be able to commission it. We are also building about 5 chief compounds.
When the land is finally secured and the project takes off in earnest, Joy News will definitely update you. Eton Amsi, Joy News.
Up next, we bring you business with Abigail Adomakoinchi. Stay tuned.
Some business reports with me, Abigail Adomakoinchi. We go to the airport in the second phase of the ongoing expansion works at the Kotoka International Airport is 50% complete. Officials of the Ghana Airport Company Limited say the project, which is expected to be completed by close of the year, will see the expansion of the baggage claim hall, carousels, and a construction of a new terminal. The Kotoka International Airport Phase 3 rehabilitation project is expected to provide a new apron for the airport, aeronautical ground lighting, and an extension of the full main to the cargo apron. Additional floors are also being built to serve as airline offices and offices for the staff of the Ghana Airport Company Limited, Immigrations and Customs.
This project actually is opening up the immigration hall as well as the baggage claim hall. I think when we went through, you saw how wide the arrival hall is now in terms of facilitating passengers through immigration, and you have seen signs of expansion of the baggage claim hall also. We have relocated the washrooms, and that space is now currently going to be available for movement of people around the baggage carousels. We will soon also extend or expand the carousels where you actually pick your bag from, and we are going to make it four huge carousels, which is going to add to the capacity of the baggage claim hall. And that will be what we are doing in interim to actually remove the major constraint at the airport.
The construction of a third terminal is also to start by the first quarter of the year to ensure the airport handles more aircrafts during peak periods while they open up the arrival halls.
Terminal 3, which is supposed to be a modern terminal which will address all issues. Indeed, we were supposed to have done that at the Terminal 2, this current terminal. But we realized that if it's already constrained and then you want to do work, once it's under operation, it will be more further constrained. That's why we decided that, look, let's just do the arrival hall, do Terminal 3, because already we have got projections that justifies Terminal 3. And then when you do that and you move the operations to Terminal 3, then you have more time to also expand the current terminal and use it for maybe regional and domestic operations.
The $21 million project is being funded with the airport company's internally generated funds and being undertaken by contractors Amandi Holdings Limited. Away from the airport, the severe harmattan currently being experienced in Ghana and elsewhere in the sub-region has quite a few people worried. Apart from the populace who are having to grapple with cracked lips and broken skin, aeroplane pilots and drivers are not seeing their way clear, resulting in a suspension of domestic flights. Yet another group whose operations are being hampered by the weather phenomenon are cane weavers, who say the harmattan is driving them to breaking point. Derek Ekosam has more.
It is that time of the year when all workers would typically hope for a good start. Having enjoyed some good sales by supplying the baskets used to package the end-of-year hampers, the cane manufacturers are switching back to making the popular cane chairs, baskets and other items. But the harmattan is giving them the chill. The extremely dry weather means the canes break at the slightest attempt to bend as they lose whatever moisture they have. Though they dip the canes in water as a way around the problem, they explain it does not exactly address the challenge and slows down production.
This year, harmattan is too very hard. It's worrying us. So when things come like that, the cane is breaking. If you want to job with the canes, you not feel well. You're not happy about the way how you pairing it and then you divide it fast going on. You cannot get that happy to do that job, because if you want to divide it, it will break.
At this particular time of the season, you can't do the work as you want it to be, because of the dryness of the season, the weather. The cane also become very dry, and at this season, when you hold it, it breaks. So you can see I have water with me here. So I use the water, pour it on it time to time. At least every 5 minutes, I have to use the water to pour on the canes before I can do the work.
Most of the time, we got to have some small moisture in the cane before we can even burn it or work with it. But because of the harmattan, we can't control it. You are going to waste most of your time in dipping the raw material in the water. So if you got to use about 5 hours in doing something, because of the dipping, it will take about maybe 10 hours.
They also say they cannot increase the price of their wares as they fear it will discourage their patrons.
Oh, the price doesn't change for the season now, because the price it's a work that we do long time. Every year we need to increase the price, but some years are there you cannot increase the price because of the business beginning from the general up to that year. No, you cannot increase it. But some years are there we can increase that from the general going on, because as at now the set of chairs is 1,500 cedis.
No, because around this time you can see it's just after the Christmas, and school also has just reopened, and families, everybody is planning for the new year ahead. So if you increase the prices, it's another whole different problem you have to consider. So we don't increase the price at all.
The price there is the same. It's the same, not that because of the harmattan, unless maybe those who bring the goods for us to buy, the material, the raw material for us to buy, unless they increase it before our price will go high.
These artisans have therefore resorted to use more of the rattan than the cane, hopeful they can return to their cane products once the harmattan permits. Derek Ekosams reports for Joy News.
Away from Ghana, let's go straight to the UK, where inflation rate fell sharply to 0.5% in December, the joint lowest on record. Inflation, as measured by the Consumer Price Index, fell from 1% in November to its lowest rate since May 2000, helped by cheaper fuel prices. Bank of England Governor Mark Carney told the BBC low inflation could mean lower interest rates for longer. However, he said he still expected rates to move up over the course of the next couple of years. The Office for National Statistics also said that the retail prices index measure of inflation fell to 1.6% from 2%. And that does it for business. I'm Abigail Adumakunchi. Do stay on for more news.
Business News.
Time to talk some sports now. It's all about the African Cup of Nations, and Chief Executive of the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, Alex Mode, has debunked rumors his outfit had opted to top up the Black Stars AFCON reward package to $10,000. Reports in the media were rife. The GNPC stepped in to calm the waters after the Black Stars rejected the $5,000 flat rate tabled by the Sports Ministry. However, Alex Mode, whose outfit currently sponsors the national team, tells Joy Sports their contract with the GFA forbids them from interfering with bonuses that the playing body actually receive.
The package is quite simple. We take care of the coaches' salaries, and we take care of the friendly games and also some of the international games that they play. We do not take care of the bonuses of the Black Stars. That is the prerogative of the government. However, if GNPC is called to support the Black Stars in any way, we will dig deep. We will go to our board, and our board will most likely give approval for us to support them in any way. But our package with them remains the same as it was last year.
Yeah, there were rumors, recently that, the players were not ready to accept that 5,000 that the government was proposing, and that the headline sponsors were trying to top up. How true is that?
We have not had a conversation with the National Sports Council yet, or the ministry on it, but I believe that it's in their realm, and I believe that they can resolve it. If they can't resolve it, they will speak with us. But as far as we know, that is being handled at the ministry level.
More on the Black Stars. And ex-Black Stars captain Stephen Appiah is calling on Ghanaians to lower the expectations at the Nations Cup, which begins in Equatorial Guinea in 4 days. The Stars have not won silverware in over 3 decades and will be eager to rewrite the history books. But Stephen Appiah says expectations must be measured.
When Germany, Brazil, Spain, and the rest, they were going to the World Cup, we didn't hear them saying that they are going to win the World Cup. You understand? So I think that's one thing that we have to talk about. I think at times we have to be humble enough to put our feet down. Because you're going to the World Cup and everybody was talking, we are going to win the World Cup, Ghana is going to win the World Cup. Of course we have the goal that we're going to win, but we have to be humble. We don't have to make noise of it, because the teams that they win the World Cup, they don't go there and they say that, oh, we are going to win the World Cup. And it's like, I always tell the boys that when you're going to play a tournament, you don't have to even think about the second game. For instance, in our group we have South Africa, Senegal, and Algeria. When we're going to play against Algeria, South Africa and Senegal, they don't exist. So you have to take it match after match. So we have to start being humble and think about these things. Ivan Grant is a new coach. He has been in the business for so long. He knows some of the players, and some of the players they know him. I think that the most important thing is the players should respect him. They should listen to his instructions. And we will all rally behind the team, and we hope that something good will come out of it.
All right, so the Black Stars rounded up their preparations in Sevilla. They'll be heading off to Equatorial Guinea. It's very likely that final friendly against Freiburg won't come off. But let me give you some news, though. Senegal will be playing Ghana in the first game on Monday, and they have beaten Guinea 5-2. You know what happened between Ghana and Guinea during the qualifiers. Just tidbits out there as we get into that. But as the continent get ready for the AFCON, which kicks off this weekend, we begin our special build-up to the continental showpiece. Let's start tonight with a profile of Group A, which has host Equatorial Guinea, Gabon, Congo, and Burkina Faso. That'll be all for sports tonight. I'm George Addy Jr. Israel will join us with some more. Have a good night.
Icon Kwesi Cheidakwa, who is standing trial for allegedly raping a 19-year-old lady, has apologized for what he calls the public ridicule and disgrace caused by his involvement with his female accuser. In a release issued to the media, KKD said he sinned and has asked God for forgiveness. The apology comes shortly after reports emerged that his accuser, Ura Efe Orleans Thompson, is no longer interested in pursuing the matter. On the same day, his bail application was denied again by a human rights court.
It was expected to be a bail application hearing, but things, however, took a different turn when the trial judge, Kweku Esel Kumsen, adjourned the case to Thursday after meeting counsel for both the plaintiff and defendants in camera. An hour later, news filtered in that the 19-year-old leading the rape charge does not intend to cooperate with the prosecution. A two-page letter said to have been addressed to the Director of Public Prosecutions at the Attorney General's Department and copied to the Chief Justice, the Registrar of the High Court and the top hierarchy of the Ghana Police Service cited the media frenzy that followed the arrest of KKD and the unending buzz and social media posts which she described as insensitive as reasons for her decision. Erefi Orleans Thompson also alleged that since the story broke, her life has taken a dramatic turn and she's been unable to appear in public without attracting harsh gossip and finger-pointing. Meanwhile, the accused, currently in hospital under police guard, in his statement of apology said he was sorry for, and I quote, the public ridicule and disgrace that have ensued by reason of fleeting pleasure of the flesh involving Refi Orleans Thompson and myself. I acknowledge I have sinned and have prayed to God for forgiveness for all the trauma I have caused this young woman. I plead with all in the media to spare Erefi and our respective families further agonies. Meanwhile, the Aegis Department is yet to respond as to whether they will continue with the case or not.